Folks, the show could not be more loaded if we even tried. We're going to talk about the Broncos' unbelievable 33 points, fourth quarter scoring to pull off a comeback against the New York Giants. Talk about that. Why Shohei Ohtani is the best baseball player of all time, and it's frankly not that close. Going to get into Dak Prescott, why he is clearly worst case scenario in the third place spot for MVP this season. Jalen Hurts just keeps proving the doubters wrong. Stephen A. Smith will not stop talking about LeBron James. The Chiefs are by far the best team in the NFL. Christian McCaffrey's carrying the Niners. All kinds of stuff to talk about. I can't wait. Week 7 recap, prediction for the Monday Night Double Dip. We got the Game 7 tonight. I can't wait for the show. I can barely contain myself. So here we go. Carving Up is ready to go. Locked in. Here we go. Drop the beat, baby. As I said once again, here we go. Hey everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up Live right here on YouTube, as well as on X, Facebook, and on Instagram. I am Bryson Carver, and again, as I said in the open, we could not be more loaded of a show if we tried. All kinds of stuff to talk about. I got to admit, some late additions to the rundown in terms of, and not anything like immediate as far as like the last couple of hours, but the Stephen A. Smith topic, I initially, I'll be honest, wasn't going to do that one, but it's crazy enough to where I kind of couldn't avoid it. This man will not stop talking about LeBron James, and we'll touch on that later on the show. Going to talk about Dak Prescott, my guy. He just, by the week, each and every week, he continues to show. The elite quarterback discussion was always silly. He's been an elite quarterback almost his entire career. But the conversation of, is this man one of the 5 best quarterbacks on the planet? I'll tell you exactly why he is later on today's show. Touch on what else we got. Again, week 7 recap. Christian McCaffrey's carrying the Niners. Mahomes owns the Raiders, and I mean owns the Raiders. Drake May is having an unreal season. And by the way, did something yesterday that not even Tom Brady did. When you're doing stuff in Patriot quarterback history that not even the GOAT can say he did, that's saying something. Micah Parsons is the only reason the Packers aren't 500 today. Talk about him. A lot of stuff to get into on the show today. We've got, by the way, as the late great Bill Russell would say, we got tonight.
The best 2 words in sports. Game 7.
They are. We got a Mariners and Toronto Blue Jays Game 7 tonight, so that's going to be very, very exciting to watch tonight. But first, as shocking of a comeback as you will see, the Denver Broncos, all right, down 19-0 in the third quarter, down 26-8, not in the fourth quarter, with just about 6 minutes to go in the fourth quarter. In other words, over half the fourth quarter was gone. They were down 3 scores. Came back and won the football game, scored all 33 of their points for the football game in the fourth quarter alone to win 33-32 over the New York Giants. And what's amazing, let's start in the Giants side of this, because to me, they are the bigger story today. Listen, I know there's a lot of people in New York and New Jersey. Heck, Giants have a huge fan base all over America. Giants fans all over America, all over the world, that are just, in the last 24 hours, despondent, devastated, crushed. How do we recover from this? And I get that. I really do. If you're a fan base that has been as tortured as this one has been, where since their last Super Bowl title in the 2011 season when they knocked off Tom Brady and the Patriots for the second time, from 2012 on to now, I'm in the playoffs twice. 2016, and that was the famous Miami boat trip with Odell and Victor Cruz and Sterling Shepard. Ended up with being a disaster. They got blown out in Green Bay. It gets Aaron Rodgers the next week. And then obviously a few years ago, they made the playoffs, won a playoff game against Minnesota, and then got trounced by the eventual NFC champion Eagles the very next week. So I get it. Giants fans, you've been through it. There are no such thing in the NFL as bad wins. They don't exist. This is not college football. You're not playing for style points. This isn't about where you're ranked next week in the AP poll, the top 25 college poll. Wins and losses, that's what you're judged on in the National Football League. It's why I defended the Chiefs ardently last year. Guys, they went 15-2. I think they know what they're doing. We'll talk about the Chiefs later on the show. There are such things in the NFL, in terms of a long-term view of it. There are such thing as good losses. In the moment, and even today, Overreaction Monday, as we like to call it, doesn't feel that way. But if you're a Giants fan, think of it this way. We're down our top receiver. in Malik Neighbors, and he's gone for the year. We've known that since that game against the Chargers back in week 4. Malik Neighbors is done for the year. Our offensive line, as solid as it is, but great left tackle Andrew Thomas is going against a team in the Denver Broncos that leads the sport by a mile in sacks. Nick Benito, I've said a million times, runaway defensive player of the year candidate. All right, so you had that fact on it, and you scored 32, what should have been 34 points, if not for 2 missed extra points. Get to that in a second. But what should have been 32 points against the Denver Broncos. Your rookie quarterback, Jackson Dart. And you look at the box, you're like, under 50% completion, passer rating in the 90s. Like, he was solid, but he wasn't. Folks, that was Jackson Dart's 4th start of his career. All right? The first 2, or I guess 2 of the first 3, at home. Friendly confines of MetLife Stadium. Maybe not so friendly as far as the turf is concerned, but you're on the come for a home against, with the Giants fans in the stands. Going on the road in the Mile High in Denver, especially, those fans are loud to begin with. Then you add the emotional component of, man, Demaryius Thomas, number 88, God rest his soul, got his number retired yesterday. It was a big ceremony before the game, and during the game they showed the 88 being shown in the stadium in the Ring of Honor. It was great. Kudos to the Broncos, class organization, for doing what they did for the late Demaryius Thomas. A whole emotional impact on that. And yet, and still, they did hold a 4th quarter lead of 18 points with 6 minutes to go. We had never seen a team blow a lead. 1,602 wins for teams that held an 18-point lead with that much time left in the 4th quarter and lose the game. So I get it. Did throw the pick. Up 10, 3 minutes to go, or about 5 minutes to go. Right, Broncos got an opportunity to get a stop. Not only do they get a stop, they get a pick. Bo Nix runs it in. It's a whole different ballgame. But I was impressed by the composure of their quarterback. Because I'm hearing a lot today, man, if that game would have went to overtime, the Giants are cooked. I don't know that. Because they blew that 18-point lead with 1 minute and 50 seconds to go. The Broncos had the lead before Will Lutz walked it off with no time left. 1:50 to go. Denver's up. 4 points, and the Giants need a touchdown. Jackson Dart, against that crowd, against that vaunted defense, with the momentum completely flipped after he just threw a massive interception 2 drives before. Calmly goes right down the field. There was a pass interference call that was kind of bogus. I thought it was 2 guys fighting for the ball, especially in that situation. I don't think you throw a flag. I think it was a really bad call by the officials. Regardless, put him down at the 1-yard line. It's not his fault the backup kicker missed 2 extra points. Brian Dable was, I think, said after the game, I can't even look at you. He was flabbergasted. Not his fault that the Giants defense couldn't stop the Denver Broncos with under a minute to go, and Denver's out of timeouts. So in the here and now, devastating. Long term, you got to feel great if you're a Giants fan. Brian Burns, unblockable. Abdul Carter, bright future. Thibodeau, we know about the Giants' defensive line. Offensively, got our left tackle. For the short term, we've got our running back in Cam Scadaboo. Not sure how long of a career he's going to have. He hits everything that moves. And then this kid, Jackson Dart, played well against a Jesse Minter coach defense in the Chargers, although the Chargers did get cooked by Indianapolis yesterday, but the Colts are on a roll, so that's a different story for later in the show. Week 2, turnovers, struggled against the Saints in the second half. It happens. Second start of your career, first road start. And then you clock Philadelphia on a short week at home against the defending Super Bowl champions, and you have an excellent Broncos team, one of the better rosters in football, on the ropes. You blow that big lead, and you go right down the field and score. That's the stuff you can, 4 starts to his career. Listen, early in most quarterbacks' career, most guys aren't Mahomes. They just come in, bam, they're awesome. It's usually a slow bake. It's a process. It's getting comfortable with your receivers. Being able to read film and be able to digest it in real time on the field at the quarterback position. So much of it, I say all the time, so much of this society can be very much microwave. Want it now. TikTok culture. A lot of times you got to put it in the oven. It takes a long time to bake. And I think when it's all said and done, once this recipe is baked, Giants fans with their quarterback, Anakin Skywalker, lookalike himself, Jackson Dart, they're going to be having a lot of fun.
This is where the fun begins.
I know it doesn't feel like it now, but in the future, Giants fans, I think you've got your guy. As for Denver, man, this Broncos offense is Jekyll and Hyde. For stretches of this game, I don't know if I tweeted. I know I was texting people throughout. This Broncos offense can at times be truly unwatchable. We saw it last week in London against the Jets. Scored 13 points. They were awful. Through big stretch of this game, couldn't convert on third down. Bo Nix is missing wide open receivers, be it Marvin Mims, Cortland Sutton down the field, missing them wide open. His deep ball has got to get better. But similar to Philadelphia, right? Gave the Eagles their first loss of the season a couple of weeks ago. On the road in Philly, down 14 points. Something switched. Something flipped. In the case of, in the case of Bo Nix, we could show you his numbers in the fourth quarter against the Giants. He was awesome. 4 total touchdowns just in the fourth quarter alone. 4 total touchdowns, no interceptions, 76% completion, 218 total yards in a quarter, by the way. Once again, 117.6 rating, 33 fourth quarter points, which is second most in NFL history for a fourth quarter. And of course, he led the game-winning drive and the go-ahead drive before that. Using his legs, making big-time throws down the field. Like, listen, there was a lot of expectation for this Denver team come this season. Like, man, not only could they potentially, push the Chiefs for that AFC West title, could they be Super Bowl contenders in the AFC? The Super Bowl contenders thing I thought was a bit premature. Frankly, I thought them challenging the Chiefs for the AFC West was also a bit premature because I think the Chiefs are going to end up running away with the division the way that they're playing right now. I know Broncos are in first. Chiefs are playing unbelievable football. We'll talk about them later. But the roster is excellent. They have, to me, Philadelphia last year had the best offensive line and defensive line combo. This year it's Denver. I mean, you talk about guys like McGlinchey on that O-line, unbelievable. Garrett Bowles. And then on the defensive line, it's Benito and Zach Allen. They got some dogs on both sides of the ball to the Denver Broncos. And forgetting the back end of their secondary, you're talking about guys like Pat Surtain, best corner in football as far as I'm concerned. This Denver, listen, in terms of weapons, they're not great, but they do run the football well with J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey. It's just a matter of them putting it together. It's a matter of Sean Payton, who's as experienced a coach there as in the NFL, and I love Sean Payton, but the situation, third quarter, it's, the Giants are well within their own territory. They get stopped short. It's 4th and 4 in their own territory. There's a penalty on the Giants. Sean Payton elects to take the penalty, and Giants get a 3rd and long, and they end up converting as opposed to they obviously would have been punting on that 4th and short. So some of these game-managing situations that you think Sean Payton would have figured out by now, I guess not at least in that situation. But if you're a Broncos fan, hey, win's a win. We survived. Maybe the Broncos offense found something. Maybe it's more Bo Nix using his legs, which he's always been a better athlete than people think. But using his legs more, the deep ball's just not working with Cortland Sutton, Marvin Mims. I wouldn't be shocked if the Denver Broncos have the same aspirations that my Steelers do, and that's going out and getting a number 2 receiver at the deadline a couple of weeks. That's very much on the board, but it's a very good Denver team. This is a very talented Broncos team. So excellent stuff. Just an unbelievable game. Unbelievable game we saw yesterday in Mile High. Got a comment here before we move to Shohei Ohtani. FL5 underscore blood RJ. I don't know. I struggle to read this. He says, what I learned from yesterday is the Colts are the best team in football. JT is the best player in the league. Talking about Jonathan Taylor. We're going to talk about the Colts later. There's a stat I'm going to show on this Indianapolis offense that is hard to get your head around, especially when you see what the stat actually shows. Again, I'm going to tease. I'm going to save it for later in the show. But it's unbelievable stuff. So, yeah, Indianapolis, you can make a case for the best team in football. I think Bryce is best 10 on Wednesday. I think it's Kansas City, the way they're playing right now. They're going to be playing, by the way, these two teams in week 12, I think, and it's like a 1 o'clock kickoff on CBS. That thing needs to get flexed into Monday Night Football. Let me say that now on the record on October 20th, 2025. That Chiefs-Colts game, flex that into Monday Night Football. Because you know what the Monday night game is right now? Niners and Panthers. No thanks. I'm good. Put that in the 1 p.m. window here in the East Coast. We want to see Chiefs, Colts in primetime. The whole country wants to see that. That'll be a blast. All right, switching sports for a second. So, listen, we've got a Game 7 tonight. Seattle Mariners and the Toronto Blue Jays. I like Seattle tonight. I picked Seattle going into the postseason to win the American League. Even when my Red Sox were still in it, I think Seattle's rotation has not been good over the course of this postseason, but the bullpen has. Cal Raleigh, Rodriguez, all these guys. Suarez with the big grand slam in Game 5. I think Seattle's going to end up shocking Toronto, winning Game 7 on the road to play the Dodgers. But speaking of the Dodgers, they themselves advanced the World Series by sweeping the Milwaukee Brewers, who had the best record in baseball, by the way, with 97 wins, in a 4-0 sweep, win Game 4 in Los Angeles. So let's put this segment into like a storytelling format as opposed to just hot takey format right off the bat. So Shohei Ohtani on the mound against the Milwaukee Brewers. By the way, one of the better offenses in Major League Baseball was fantastic. Matter of fact, it was one of the better pitch games we've ever seen. We can show you the numbers. Shohei Ohtani on the mound as the starting pitcher against Milwaukee. 6 innings, 2 hits, no earned runs, 10 strikeouts, ladies and gentlemen, only 3 walks. And you see right there, 26th pitcher ever is Shohei Ohtani to record 10 strikeouts, 2 or less hits, and 0 earned runs in a postseason start. It's the greatest game ever played did Shohei Ohtani pull off. You're like, whoa, Bryson, hang on just a second. That's an excellent stat line. Greatest game ever played? It's great, don't get me wrong, but 25 other pitchers have done what Shohei Ohtani did on Friday night. But then let's talk about another player. Let's talk about this other guy. His name also happens to be Shohei Ohtani. He was the Dodgers' best hitter in this game. Can we show you his numbers? He had one of the greatest games ever. Against the Milwaukee Brewers, 3 hits, not 1, not 2, but 3 home runs, obviously 3 RBIs. The second of those home runs, by the way, hit out of Dodger Stadium, for crying out loud. 3 runs in his one at-bat that he did not hit a home run, drew a walk. He's the 12th hitter ever to hit 3 home runs in a postseason game. You're like, that's amazing. Still, I wouldn't say it's the greatest game ever played, but what if I told you that the pitcher and the hitter were the same darn guy? Put up that graphic and see how that looks. The same player, 6 innings pitched, 2 hits, 0 earned runs, 10 strikeouts. As a batter, 3 hits, 3 home runs, 3 RBIs. 12th hitter to hit 3 home runs. 26th pitcher to strike out 10, give up 2 hits and 0 runs. Shohei Ohtani did both in the same game. And an excellent baseball reporter. Shout out to Sarah Lange on social media. Fantastic follow. Does a great job covering baseball. She summed it up perfectly. To recap Ohtani's night, first leadoff homer by a pitcher in baseball history. First postseason multi-home run game by a pitcher. First game in Major League history with 3 home runs, 10 strikeouts. First player with 2 116-mile-per-hour home runs in a game in the StatCast era, which is since 2015. And he's the first player with 2 career games, in other words, multiple career games, with 2 home runs and 10 strikeouts. Shohei Ohtani, first guy to ever do that in the history of the Major League Baseball playoffs, and in some cases, the history of the sport in general. What we are witnessing, ladies and gentlemen, is the greatest, let me back up. Greatest is a different conversation. What we are witnessing right now, folks, is the best baseball player to ever step on the diamond, and it's not particularly close. Shohei's not the greatest quite yet. He might be on his way getting there. We'll talk about that in a second. I think you can make an argument certainly for a Barry Bonds. If you want to go all the way back to Babe Ruth, there's the fringes that think guys like a Ken Griffey Jr. should be in that conversation. He's the most gifted, had the prettiest swing, all of it. There's plenty of guys you can discuss. Here's what I know about Shohei Ohtani. Why is he the best player of all time? Well, first of all, he's the legit ace. The fact of the matter is, off a second Tommy John surgery, he didn't pitch till the middle of the year. This man had a 2.87 ERA. Pitched half the year off a second Tommy John surgery. Hadn't pitched in 2 years, 2.87 ERA. By the way, his last fully healthy season as a pitcher, 2022, he finished 4th in the American League Cy Young voting. In other words, last fully healthy season pitching, baseball voters came together and said there were only 3 American League pitchers better than this guy. Pretty good. So he's an ace of a pitcher. He's awesome. Struck out 10 in his most recent start. He's also, behind Aaron Judge, the best power hitter in Major League Baseball. 2021, he finished 3rd in homers. 2023 finished 4th. Last year finished 2nd. This year finished 3rd. The last 2 years, he has hit over 50 home runs. That's pretty good. So he's an ace of a pitcher, and he's the 2nd best power hitter in baseball. Add to that, because Shohei we got to see the long-term effects of his career. Shohei may be the type of guy like a Steph Curry. Maybe it won't be as widespread as what Steph's done for the three-point shot, but a guy who we see 20 years from now, there are some other two-way players. Shohei's not the first two-way player that we've seen, but guys who are great hitters, probably not 50 home run great hitters, but great hitters, can hit for average, hit for power, and they're excellent pitchers, maybe even aces. But can they run like a gazelle on the base paths? Because that's what Shohei Ohtani can do. Because last year, 2024, first season with the Los Angeles Dodgers, he had the first 50-50 season in the history of Major League Baseball. What do I mean by that? Well, 50 home runs, 50 steals. So in other words, one of the best base stealers in the sport, second best power hitter in the sport, and one of the aces in the sport when he's healthy. Oh, by the way, just as a nice cherry on top, he's 8 years into his Major League Baseball career. He's about to win his 4th MVP. That will put him all by himself in second place behind Barry Bonds, who had 7 for crying out loud. Put Shohei Ohtani second. 8 years in his career, he's second already. You're going to be in MVPs. Some things don't need much more explanation beyond the obvious. It's funny, our Constitution here in the United States starts with, we hold these truths to be self-evident. As in, they're so obvious we don't even need to state them beyond, one time. The same thing can be said about this particular baseball player. What we are seeing from this man is something I'm not sure we'll ever see again by a Major League Baseball player. You are seeing right now folks discussing, I don't know if I'd go here yet, but is this the greatest performance in American sports history? I don't think I would go quite there, but it is the best performance in the history of the Major League Baseball playoffs. The man hit 3 home runs and struck out 10 batters, folks, in a closeout game to win the NLCS. That would be like if Patrick Mahomes in the AFC title game threw 5 touchdowns and then had 10 tackles, 2 interceptions, one of them being a pick 6. That's what this is. The best player in a sport who's elite on both sides of the ball. Who's the best on both sides of the ball? Or in this case, in Major League Baseball, dominant on the mound, dominant at the plate, and dominant on the base paths. By the way, just something else too. The game last year in which he got to that 50-50 milestone, in that game, he went 6 for 6, had 3 home runs, 2 stolen bases, 10 RBIs. He's simply on a different planet than everybody else. Essentially, take Aaron Judge, take like a little lesser version of Garrett Crochet, and sprinkle in a little bit of Ellie De La Cruz, and you've got Shohei Ohtani. That's who that is. I want to reiterate this. He is the best baseball player ever. Listen, people say, well, what about Barry Bonds? Bonds was awesome. Don't get me wrong. Was Bonds out here dominating the mound? Bonds the greatest home run hitter ever. Forget the steroids. He was great before the steroids. Arguably the greatest power hitter ever. The man's a 7-time MVP. Put him in the Hall of Fame for crying out loud. Different story for a different day. Ken Griffey didn't play long enough. Babe Ruth didn't play against black players. The sport was still segregated back then. Like there are a number, again, we're not talking about greatest, we're talking about best. And against the best baseball players on the face of the earth, he makes them look ordinary. That's what the great athletes do. Some of the great LeBron James games. Remember that 2007? Scored, I think it was 29 of the Cavs' last 30 points. Carried him to a Game 5 win in Detroit, Palace of Auburn Hills. There were Hall of Famers on that floor for Detroit. I guess the second iteration, so to speak, of the Bad Boy Pistons. And they were extras in the film next to the A-lister. That's what you're seeing right now. I mean, the Dodgers are a team. This is the Avengers. You got Chris Evans and Scarlett Johansson and Robert Downey and all of these A-list big-name actors. You got Freddie Freeman and Mookie Betts, and Teoscar Hernandez is a good supporting actor. And Dave Roberts is a previous postseason hero. And Clayton Kershaw is kind of like the Robert De Niro, so to speak, right? Like the old veteran who's kind of still got it, and they pale. Freddie Freeman, I wish we had the photo. Freddie Freeman, hands on his head. Man's a 2-time World Series champion. Man last year had one of the greatest moments in World Series history, the walk-off grand slam to beat the Yankees in Game 1. And he's left speechless. He doesn't, these guys see Shohei Ohtani every single day, and they cannot believe what they're seeing. That's the mark. Certainly an all-time great athlete, which we know Shohei is, but the best baseball player of all time, Shohei Ohtani. Greatest? He's on that track. By the way, Dodgers are 4 wins away from him getting to ring number 2. 2 years in LA could be 2 rings. Helping lead a dynasty. It's pretty unbelievable what this man's doing. It really, really is. Check the comments. This guy agrees with me. Monday Night Football, Chiefs, Colts. Yeah, let's see it. I'd love to. Listen, you can't you can't see a situation in which, these networks decide to choose, let's go with Mac Jones or Brock Purdy versus Bryce Young or Andy Dalton, when you could get, this is a weird statement to make, what I'm about to say right now, Patrick Mahomes versus Daniel Jones, which all of a sudden is a marquee quarterback matchup. Obviously, on one side, that goes without saying, but the other, man, Daniel Jones been balling. We'll talk about the Colts later when we get to our Week 7 recap. Just unbelievable stuff that we've seen in the NFL. Okay, we're going to take a 1-minute break, but when we come back, we've got so much to talk about in Carving Up. It's not even funny. By the way, on the eve of the 6-year anniversary of this very show, first episode, I'm in a different studio than I was back on October 21st, 2019, but like right over there, not too far away from here, outside of this room, recorded my first ever episode. We are planning to do a special episode of Carving Up tomorrow. So still going to be talking about sports, going to be talking about the doubleheader on Monday Night Football tonight, going to be making some NBA predictions. We're going to have 4 shows. It's supposed to 3 Carving Up episodes. We're going to have 4 for this special week because of the fact that the anniversary of Carving Up happens to fall on a Tuesday. So check us out tomorrow. Time hasn't been announced yet. We're trying to get that worked out depending on what other shows on this network. Don't want to step on anybody's toes. I want everybody to be able to have that solo audience. So more information on that as we go by. But a special episode of Carving Up Live, a 6-year anniversary edition tomorrow. Not sure what time it's going to be. We'll announce that on social media, but we'll take a 1-minute break. When we come back, 2 guys that keep proving the doubters wrong. One in the current time more so than the other, Jalen Hurts, and the other Dak Prescott, who's playing literally perfect football. The likes of which some of the greatest quarterbacks ever have played. Talk about both of those guys after the break. Don't go anywhere, folks. We're just getting started on Carving It Up Live. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. Before I get to Jalen Hurts, we did have a little bit of breaking news about 20 or so minutes ago from Adam Schefter. He tweeted, per the NFL, Broncos linebacker Dre Greenlaw has been suspended without pay for 1 game for unsportsmanlike conduct following Sunday's game against the New York Giants. He then retweeted that with more information. After the conclusion of the Giants-Broncos game, the NFL said Dre Greenlaw chased after referee Brad Allen and verbally threatened him as he tried to lead the field. It looks like somebody may have tweeted the video. So Will Lutz is celebrating. The whole team's going crazy. I wish we could show you right now. But there's here's Jared Greenlaw. Yeah, he's chasing Brad Allen. He's yelling at him, said something. And Brad Allen flagged him after the game. So the game was over and Brad Allen threw out the yellow laundry. So that's okay. So Dre Greenlaw is going to be out this week. I think they're playing Dallas, if I'm not mistaken. So that's a big loss for the Denver Broncos, and we'll see how that continues to play itself out. I don't know if he can appeal the suspension like how Brian Branch could. Branch didn't win. I don't imagine. Based on what I saw there, I can't read lips that well in this video, but didn't look great. So we'll see how it continues to develop. Y'all got to stop hating on Jalen Hurts. Like it's getting kind of old and tired now. We can agree that yesterday's game against the Minnesota Vikings for the Philadelphia Eagles was kind of a must win. Not in that, their season is over, they can't make the playoffs, they're dead. A rule I've personally made on this show and Carving It Up is if you lose 3 straight, I cannot consider you a Super Bowl contender. Because my mindset is, man, you're going to lose games in the NFL. It happens. If you lose 1, it's the league. No one's undefeated. You're going to lose. It happens. Then you lose another one. Okay, you're in a little bit of a slump. But now you know that third game, we got to get this one. This is important. If you lose that one, I can't take you seriously. Because you were, I'd imagine, locked into this matchup, and he still couldn't get the job done, barring any sort of serious injury that prevented you from doing so. So this is a gigantic game. And matter of fact, there were reports coming into this week that an anonymous Eagles player, and boy, if you know me, you know I hate anonymous quotations. Say it with your chest. That an anonymous Eagles player said, man, way we're playing right now, it reminds me of the collapse at the end of 2023, which for those that may not remember, the Eagles were the defending NFC champions. They start 10-1, and they lose 5 of their last 6 games. Or I guess including the playoff games, 6 of their last 7 games to end the regular season and to end the postseason, to go out of the playoffs. It was a disaster. So you got players in the locker room like, man, I think we're going to collapse. You've got a situation where you're on the road at Minnesota, a well-coached team coming off of a bye, facing a Brian Flores coach defense, which don't we generally agree? It's like Brian Flores, Steve Spagnuolo is like the 2 best DCs in football. And Jalen Hurts quite literally played a perfect game. We can show you his numbers against a Brian Flores Vikings defense. 3 passing touchdowns, no picks, 82.6% completion, 326 passing yards. Literally a perfect pass rating, 158.3. Can't get higher than that. QBR of 95.2, 0 to 100. And I threw that little nugget there at the end, minus 10 rushing yards. I did so because there tends to be this, man, if it weren't for the tush push, which we all agree the tush push should get banned because it's awful television, hard to officiate. It's a scrum. It's really not a football play, and it's awful for the NFL. They're going to get rid of it, and they should, and I've said that on this show. But with the tush push, that's why Jalen's elite. You know, the system in Philadelphia, that's why Jalen's elite. And to that, I've always said, well, which system? Because he's had 6 different offensive coordinators, and the newest one, Philadelphia Eagles fans aren't exactly high on, and nor should they be. Kevin Patullo. Not very good. Well, it's Jalen's. He's always had a great running game. Does he this year? Saquon Barkley in 2025. He's 26. Saquon Barkley, 22nd in rush yards, 27th in rush yards per game. This is unbelievable. Tied for 42nd in yards per carry is Saquon Barkley. Tied for 17th in rushing touchdowns. Saquon Barkley has not broken a 20-yard run this season. Didn't it feel like he did that like every 6 quarters? If you ask the LA Rams, he did it every quarter in the 2 games he played them. Saquon Barkley has been a no-show this year. A.J. Brown's frustrated. You know, there's always chaos in Philadelphia with, oh man, you got players thinking we might go into a slump, and you've lost 2 straight, and Jalen Hurts steps in, as all great leaders do. Take a deep breath, guys. We're good. My temperament's not going to change. I've got this. I'm going to do whatever's necessary for us to win this football game. Whether it's beat you with my legs like he did against the Dallas Cowboys in week 1, whether it's in a game that he and the Eagles offense didn't play particularly well against the Chiefs in week 2, I'm going to make one big-time throw to Devontae Smith on a deep ball for a big explosive play. Against the LA Rams, again, Jalen Hurts can't play from behind. Really? I saw him against an elite Rams team be down 19 in the second half, come back and win. Saw him do that with his arm and with his legs. The fact of the matter is, and I've said this all season long, and I've said this after Jalen Hurts won the Super Bowl against Kansas City. There's an aspect of this player. He's just at his best in the biggest games. He just is. I understand he's had 2 rough playoff outings, ironically both against the Tampa Bay Bucks. His first playoff appearance, they weren't supposed to beat Brady and the Bucks. Second one, that was the Eagles' collapse. Everybody, including Jalen, deserves blame for that. But 2 biggest games of his life. 2 Super Bowls against Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs. Hung 35 on Kansas City, which in most cases wins you a Super Bowl. I don't think anyone's ever scored 35 in a Super Bowl and lost. Matter of fact, I'm almost certain of that. Jalen Hurts did because his defense couldn't stop the best quarterback in the world, Mahomes. And then last year, didn't we all agree? To go back to the running game question, didn't we all agree? If the Chiefs stop Saquon Barkley, 3-peat's locked. They got this. They're going to be holding that Lombardi trophy for the 3rd year in a row, and that's never happened in NFL history. And Jalen Hurts said, yeah, hold my beer. I'm just going to go out here and dominate you guys. I'm going to throw it all over the yard, hit you on go balls to Devontae Smith. I'm going to be accurate to A.J. Brown. I'm going to count for 3 touchdowns. This man's accounted for 7 touchdowns in his Super Bowl career in 1 turnover against the Kansas City Chiefs. The preeminent dynasty in the NFL today. in a must-win type of situation against a great defense and an amazing defensive coordinator coming off of a bye on the road. Number one receiver's frustrated. We can't run the football. Philly doesn't like our offensive coordinator. You got people in the building, literally in the Eagles building saying, man, we may collapse. And Jalen Hurts, per usual, does not blink. We can debate whether Jalen's a top 5 quarterback. We can. I understand both sides of that conversation. Can we please? I feel like we finally got to this point with Lamar about a year or so ago. Can we get to it with Jalen? Guys, he can throw the football at an elite level. He can. He can work with any system. How? Because he's worked with 6 of them. He's worked with 6 different OCs. He can work without a running game, which he has not had whatsoever this year with Saquon Barkley. He can work with his number one receiver and I think A.J. Brown's a good dude. I've said that many times on the show, but can be a bit difficult to say the very least. He can work with defenses that aren't playing their best, and Philadelphia has not been playing their best this season. He can work with a head coach that some people aren't crazy about, Nick Sirianni. He can work with an offensive coordinator, Kevin Patullo, who people don't think is good. He can work with a locker room that seems to be a bit in dysfunction. Step in there and play a perfect game against a great defense off of a bye. So this whole Jalen, I hear more about what Jalen can't do than what he can do, and the latter far outweighs the former. His deep ball's improved clearly this year. Clutch playmaking skills, that's been there since Alabama. Never forget, as a freshman against the Clemson Tigers in the national championship game, Jalen Hurts left the field with a lead. Then Deshaun Watson, the Tigers, Hunter Renfrow, we know how that story ended. This is who he's always been. He's improved. He was not the player's rookie that he is now. Players get better. I was not crazy about Jalen Hurts coming in the NFL because I didn't think he was a natural thrower. Didn't love his size. He's proved me wrong. Without question. Since that Super Bowl against Kansas City kind of opened my eyes like, wow, the Chiefs took Saquon Barkley away and he still torched them. And that was a great Kansas City defense. Could not stop Jalen Hurts. With an OC and Kellen Moore that I wasn't crazy about. And darn sure not crazy about Kevin Patullo. And here the Eagles sit today. If the Bucs lose tonight to the Detroit Lions, they're 5-2. Like at the top of the NFC. That's Jalen Hurts. That's who he is. So if you're a Philadelphia Eagles fan, long as that guy's a quarterback, you're good. We're good. We've got our guy. Outstanding game by Jalen Hurts. You know who else had an outstanding game? And I mean, are we shocked? Look, I had a mixed bag of a weekend because obviously I'm still, even now, a little pissed off with how the Pittsburgh Steelers blew that game against Cincinnati on Thursday night. I'm still slowly emotionally recovering from Tennessee losing to Alabama on the road and just blowing opportunity after opportunity after opportunity to get back into that game in Tuscaloosa. I had heartbreaking upset of the week streak coming to an end with Arizona just losing by the skin of their teeth to Green Bay. We'll talk about that game later. However, if I were a bet man, winning week once again, 2-1, ladies and gentlemen. And one of those games was I get Dak Prescott at home as an underdog against a team he's never lost to at home in his career against a bad defense with CeeDee Lamb back. Yeah, I think I'm going to take Dallas in that spot. So it's become like a weekly tradition at this point. For those that know the drill, do it along with me, watching or listening. That man who wears number 4 in Dallas. You know his name. Say it loud and do me a good favor and say it real proud. Rain Dakota Prescott. Let's see what he did against the Commanders yesterday. Not 1, not 2, 3 pass touchdowns, no interceptions, 70% completion, 264 yards passing, a passer rating of $130, and a QBR 0 to 100 of 88. And this just continues. Listen, I've seen stats over the last 24 hours. Now Dak is 7-0 against Washington at home. Forget that. He is literally the second most dominant division-winning quarterback in NFL history since the merger. We can show you the numbers. Against the NFC East, which, by the way, features a team that's won 2 Super Bowls in Philadelphia. Dak Prescott, 93 total touchdowns to 22 picks. That's over a 4-to-1 touchdown interception ratio. That's pretty good. 66.5% completion. That's excellent. 256 pass yards per game. Pass rating of 102. And see that little stat right there? Dak Prescott against the NFC East wins 79.5% of his games. That's the second highest win percentage against division opponents since the merger. Only Patrick Mahomes is above him. So you can talk about, oh, the Giants have been dysfunctional, and the Commanders, outside of last year, have been dysfunctional. Jane Daniels is hurt, and Washington looks like they're going by the wayside. He's had a team in the division, the Philadelphia Eagles, who won a Super Bowl in 17, went to the Super Bowl in 22, and won the Super Bowl last year. And he still won 79.5% of his games against the NFC East. So, of course, Dak dominating Washington is not surprising as it pertains to the NFC East picture. And it's not really surprising as it pertains to what he's done all season long. Just put up Dak's numbers. These are, I'll talk about this, but MVP caliber stats. Second in touchdown passes, fourth in completion percentage, second in yards, ninth in rating, first in QBR. Dak Prescott has played simply flawless football this year. And by the way, I've done the stats really the last couple of weeks since the Packers and Jets game, and then you add the Carolina game. Now you add this one. Dak Prescott in the last however many weeks. Well, you can make it now Dak in the last 4 weeks. I've done this stat, and it now takes on historical context. Dak is playing the quarterback position like few in the history of the game have ever played it. Let's show you what Dak has done the last 4 games and then show you this next graphic, which will blow your mind. Last 4 weeks, Dak Prescott, 14 total touchdowns, no interceptions, 71.5% completion, 270 pass yards per game, pass rating of 128, QBR in this 4-week stretch of 91, 0 to 100. That's obviously phenomenal. It's historically great. And I want to give Adam Schefter credit for putting this stat out, and I compile it into a graphic today. Quarterbacks with 3 touchdown passes, no interceptions, 4 games in a row. Show that graphic. That's the company Dak Prescott keeps. For those that are listening to the show. So Dak Prescott 2025, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 4 games in a row. Here's who he joins. Tom Brady in 2007. I don't know if you remember, but the Patriots went undefeated that year and Tom won MVP. Peyton Manning between the 2013 and 2014 seasons. I don't know if you remember, but Peyton Manning won MVP in 2013. Aaron Rodgers in 2014. I don't know if you remember, but Aaron Rodgers won MVP in 2014. Russell Wilson in 2015. This is when Russ was still elite. Drew Brees in 2019. Dak Prescott in 2025. Listen, the discussion that it's funny. Tomorrow's the 1-year anniversary of carving it up. October 21st, 2019. The first ever take that I had on my show was Dak Prescott is clearly better than Carson Wentz. And that was at the time, that was a huge discussion. Who's better, Dak or Wentz? And obviously that was a ridiculous discussion then. No disrespect to Wentz, but you see what Wentz is doing now with Minnesota. And the discussion about, is Dak an elite quarterback? Is Dak a top 10 quarterback? It's like, well, literally all of his numbers are top 10. Wins are top 10. Production is top 10. By the way, he's doing it with the chaos in Dallas, owner who doesn't know what the blank he's doing. We'll talk about that in just a second. Multiple coaches who people aren't crazy about. Jason Garrett, Mike McCarthy. Schottenheimer's doing a good job, but people weren't high on Schottenheimer when he first came in. He's done it with different number 1 receivers. Des Bryant and Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb and different running backs like Ezekiel Elliott and Tony Pollard and now Javonte Williams and different offensive lines. Former offensive linemen who have Pro Football Hall of Fame futures. Tyron Smith, Zach Martin. All those people are at the building. Elite players. Dak's still doing his thing. Dak's still balling. Dak still has the Cowboys in a position where knock on wood, as long as this man is healthy, they are going to the playoffs. You do not play quarterback. Joe Burrow was unbelievable last year. He wasn't this good. You talk about, well, Dak's got a better O-line than Burrow. According to Pro Football Focus, the Dallas Cowboys rank 30th in the NFL in pass block win rate. Like, they're awful. Like, they're good in run blocking. Javonte Williams has been excellent. Dallas has run the football really, really effectively this season. Javonte Williams is top 5 in rushing. Pass protection, not great. But fortunately, as has always been the case, and I've done many segments on this over the years, Dak is the best quarterback in football. against pressure. Always has been. I mean, Micah Parsons had 10 pressures on Dak in that Packers game against Dallas. Didn't matter. Dak was phenomenal. So, 3 of the 4 games that I just showed you, CeeDee Lamb was not on the field. CeeDee Lamb, one of the 5 best receivers in the game. You saw him making big plays yesterday. Now you add CeeDee Lamb back to this lineup with a George Pickens, who, credit where it is due. I'm a Steelers fan. I was highly critical of George Pickens at the end of his time there. He's been outstanding. And by the way, by all accounts, hopefully this continues for Dallas' sake, has been good in the locker room. So you give Dak, for the first time in his career, 2 elite wide receivers. He's never had that. A good running game, which he has not had since Zeke was in his prime. By the way, you're still not giving him a good defense. Listen, as a Dak fan, this is what makes me all the more pissed off at Jerry Jones for trading Micah Parsons, especially after you saw what Micah did yesterday. We'll talk about him later. If you put Micah Parsons in this Cowboys defense, they're certainly better than they are now, and this team could actually go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. They could. With Dak playing like this, give this team an average defense. They could go to the Super Bowl and win it. And credit to Matt Eberflus, much maligned defensive coordinator, made some big-time adjustments in terms of playing way more man-to-man coverage against this Washington Commanders team, getting out of the zone, which has been eating Dallas alive. But the fact of the matter is, folks, I'm not sure Dallas has a win this year if Dak is not the starter. If Cooper Rush was still in Dallas, or if the backup, God bless him, I love him, for him a ball. But if Joe Milton was the starter, I think we'd be talking about Dallas today the way we're talking about the Jets. Rookie coach who's in over his head. They've got some talented players, but they can just never get it right. Bad owner. Defense is terrible. That's what we'd be saying about the Dallas Cowboys. Instead, they're 3-3-1. Dak, outside the Chicago game, has been outstanding in all of the Cowboys games this year. And I'm telling you right now. And by the way, look at part of the reason I say this is because of Dallas' schedule. It's not a murderer's row the rest of the year for the Dallas Cowboys. It gets a little tough there in the middle. But I'm looking at the Cowboys schedule now. So next week at Denver, that's a tough game. Go to the Mile High and win. Giants almost pulled off, so maybe you can. That's a tough game. But then you got at home, frisky Cardinals team. But you're at home. It's the Cardinals. You should win. Then you're going to buy. And then you get the gift that keeps on giving. You get to go to Vegas and take on the Raiders. That's a W. Then you got to play Philly at home. Dak in his career has never been swept by the Eagles in a regular season. Came that close to beating them on the road on banner night in week 1. What's he going to do in his home field? I think Dallas is going to win that game. Then you got the Chiefs coming to town on Thanksgiving Day. Mahomes' first Thanksgiving game. That's probably a loss. Then you go to Detroit. Not great. But then from there, Vikings at home. Chargers at home. Dak's 2-0 against Herbert with 2 game-winning drives. That's probably a win. At Washington on Christmas, who knows what Washington's going to be by that point. And we've seen Dak's dominate the Commanders' career. He's only lost twice to them ever. And then at the Giants, frisky Giants, but Dak has not lost to the New York Giants since Barack Obama was president. That team's going to the playoffs. Dak Prescott's healthy. They're going to the playoffs. And if that is the case, unless Baker continues to, and this is on the board, unless Baker just continues to blow everybody's socks off, and unless Mahomes keeps this up, which is on the board, that's your league MVP. Dak Prescott. Rain Dakota Prescott. Just week by week, the guy looks better and better and better. He moves great, monster arm, deadly accurate, clutch playmaking ability, leadership is, they had a quote yesterday. Brady and Tom Brady, Kevin Burkhardt. By the way, I briefly met Kevin Burkhardt back in August. Great guy. Nothing but love for him. And obviously, Tom's the GOAT. They were talking about, they were in a production meeting the day before the game with Dan Quinn, who's the head coach of the Commanders, and he was the defensive coordinator in Dallas for 3 years. So he knew Dak well. And I forgot if it was Burkhardt or Brady or both that mentioned the line that Dan Quinn had. That he said that we wanted to win a Super Bowl for Dak. That is a big statement to make. Like, Dan Quinn has won a Super Bowl before in Seattle, but obviously the heartbreak in Atlanta. Most of the Cowboys have never won a Super Bowl. And they wanted to do it for him. That gives you goosebumps. Like, they wanted to win it for their leader. Because the way he conducts himself, both on and off the field and in the locker room. What can you say? Said it since day one. Been an elite quarterback. always been either at or close to a top 5 quarterback. And he is, what a shocker. You actually give Dak a number 2 receiver in a running game. By the way, part of the reason I say that is in 2023, he didn't have a number 2 receiver. He didn't have a running game. He had a head coach with major limitations. And the Cowboys won 12 games, and Dak almost won league MVP with 36 touchdowns and 9 picks. Second in the league in passer rating that year. Always been an elite quarterback from the jump. And he's showing you that week after week after week. And the fact that Vegas has this man in 9th place for MVP is, well, certainly it's an indictment on the odds, but it's also get some good value on there while you can, because he's just going to rise up. Rain Dakota Prescott keeps doing it. Before I move, this should be interesting. Before I move to the Stephen A. Smith topic, which was a late addition to the show, but I after I saw this, I couldn't not talk about it. Before I do, quickly, let me predict, because the game's going to kick off in about 10 minutes or so, and it's one of the bigger matchups of the, do we have it on here? We'll see. I'm not sure we have the graphic. Maybe we do. Maybe we don't. Hopefully we do. The Buccaneers. Yeah, here we go. Here's the graphic. Buccaneers and Lions. 2 of the top contenders in the NFC. Detroit obviously coming off of a tough loss at Kansas City, a game in which the Chiefs have always been a physical team, but push Detroit around? That's saying something. And as for the Tampa Bay Bucks, 5-1. This is why Baker, after everything I just said about Dak, this is the only reason I give Baker the nod ahead of Dak. Dak's dealt with injuries to his team. Baker's whole offense has been hurt this year. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Emeka Egbuka was out for large stretches of the game last week. Bucky Irving, the offensive line. The defense isn't great. And the Bucs are 5-1 with 4 game-winning drives in their 5 wins. Baker's been awesome. 1 pick on the year. He's been great. Clutch playmaking abilities, as athletic as he's ever looked, as accurate as he's always been. I got to admit, let me check the line, because I've already taken the line where it was for the graphic that we're going to show you for my final score. Okay, the line is exactly the same, just minutes before kickoff. After the news that Mike Evans and Emeka Egbuka were going to play tonight, when that news dropped, the fact that the line went up in Detroit's favor, I think is ludicrous. Wait a minute. Let me get this straight. Mike Evans is getting up there in age, but of course we know, future Hall of Famer as far as I'm concerned. He's never had I almost asked him to sound like I'm talking about Tomlin today. Oh my gosh, it's horrifying. But this is actually a real legit accomplishment. Mike Evans has had a 1,000-yard receiving season every year of his career without fail. He does it again this year. He'll break Jerry Rice's record for the most consecutive seasons to start a career doing that. And Emeka Egbuka there's no other way to say it other than that he's the runaway offensive rookie of the year thus far. He's been unreal out of Ohio State. Loved him. I didn't think he'd be this good this quickly. Those 2 guys are back in the lineup for a 5-1 Bucs team that's won a lot of games without them, especially in the case of Mike Evans, against a Lions defense that is beat up and not that good to begin with. And Brian Branch is out for this game due to suspension because of his altercation with Juju Smith-Schuster. And you mean to tell me they're 6.5? They should be underdogs. Don't be wrong. Detroit's a great team and they're at home. 6.5-point dogs? So, listen, it's a shame that this game wasn't playing on Sunday, because this would have absolutely been on my If I Were a Bet Man segment. So, Tampa Bay plus 6.5 to me is a home run. As for the game itself, again, neither defense is great. Both offenses stacked with weapons. They're rolling. Both teams can run the football relatively effectively, more so Detroit, but both teams, even with the injuries at times in the case of Tampa, still excellent offensive lines. Baker's more capable than Goff of making plays outside the pocket, extending plays, and that's weird to say about Baker, but he's done that this year. That run against the Niners last week was unbelievable. But there are certain teams that have a real legit, we talk about home field advantage, and there's teams that legitimately have a home field advantage. Like, you feel like it impacts the outcome of games. Kansas City at Arrowhead, back when Breeze and Peyton were there. The Saints, the Dome Patrol, right? Denver, Minnesota. There's certain teams, man, that it is a real thing to go into the Lions' den, so to speak. It's fine. I'm talking about the Detroit Lions, and play these teams. Detroit's one of those teams. Ford Field, primetime, Monday Night Football. Baker's not scared of that, because last year the Bucs beat the Lions in Detroit. I think we're getting a shootout. I think we're getting a lot of points. And I think we're going to get a Jake Bates walk-off field goal. Give me the Detroit Lions 34-31 on a walk-off field goal over the Tampa Bay Bucks. Listen, the Lions need to win this game, right? Bears are I won't say the Bears are necessarily playing well. At least Caleb has struggled as of late. But Bears have won 4 in a row. Packers are playing ugly football, but stacking wins. They're 4-1-1. Lions need to get this game. They'll get it. But Bucks plus 6.5. Absolutely. I honest to God. And I love the Lions. Both of these teams are Super Bowl contenders, which is part of the reason why I say 6.5. If Ibuka and Evans were out, I get it. Like, it's like, okay, that I'd probably like it closer to 5, but I would understand it. They're both back in the lineup, and Baker's been balling without him at times. So, unbelievable stuff. We're going to get a great game tonight. So, as soon as I get done with this show, man, I'm going to my TV. I can't wait to watch this game. All right, so I predicted that game officially before it starts. You can't jump on me and say that I cheated or I'm looking at the score. I'll be looking at the score throughout the show, but, not after I made my pick. Whew, boy. This is not what I thought I'd be talking about. I knew I'd be talking some baseball with Shohei Ohtani and obviously a ton of NFL. I did not think I would be talking about, and I've tried to mostly stay away from this, but it's almost unavoidable at this point. The beef that just will not end, mostly because one person won't let it end, of LeBron James and Stephen A. Smith. Now, again, as I often say in these tense situations, obviously I am a big fan of LeBron James. I've said, and we can debate this another day, I think he's the greatest basketball player ever. I get on LeBron fans who act like it's not close. I get on Jordan fans who act like it's not close. It's obviously razor thin. You can make a case strongly for one direction or the other. Add Kareem in that too. I always get insulted when Kareem's never included in the GOAT discussion. Different conversation for a different day. LeBron's a activist community, has always been on the forefront of social issues here in America. Done some unbelievable stuff for the kids in his local community. By all accounts, great husband, great father. And then of course, Stephen A. Smith. Listen, this is a guy who didn't come from much. His book, Straight Shooter, which I read a couple of years ago, excellent read, came from a lower middle class background and has raised himself into being the face of all of sports coverage. He's the face of ESPN, $100 million contract. He's doing political coverage on his podcasts, on Sirius XM, on News Nation. Like, Stephen A. is doing his thing. Stephen A. is making the bucks. Both guys, Braun and Stephen A., didn't come from much and have accomplished unbelievable things. So both in many ways are the personification of the American dream in their own respective fields. So I want to say that on the front end, because this is not a way to attack personally anybody in this situation. But Stephen A. Smith was on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, which made it even more weird because Melo's in the Banana Boat crew with LeBron and Chris Paul and Dwayne Wade. Like, that was odd that Melo doesn't interject to anything that I'm about to play you. But Stephen A. was asked about his tiff with LeBron James, and here's what he had to say. Take a listen to Stephen A. Smith on LeBron James.
Let me get to LeBron. I don't like his not a little bit. You do not understand the links this man would go to. This dates back more than a decade. I believe he's one way publicly, he's another way privately. He might not be interviewed and he might not be quoted, but the things he says and the things he has said to people, it's gotten back to me. The things that he's tried to do, if it were up to him, I wouldn't be where I am today. It's some low. The day that he rolled up on me courtside, it was the day my contract was announced, that I had stayed with ESPN. Go back and look at the camera angles. I arrived there in the first quarter. He rolled up on me in the third quarter. This is 2025. We got technology everywhere. TNT is a nationally televised game. How is it we got one angle and the only angle you see was of him and his face, but you see the back of my peanut head? I know this, but I know a thing or two about camera angles. I determine them half the time.
Yep.
Do this angle, do this angle, do that angle. This is my business.
I ask you straight up, do you think you felt set up in that moment?
Damn right I did.
You thought he had somebody out there too?
Damn right that did.
Okay. There's a lot there. So obviously anybody who has not seen it, we won't play the footage because we don't have the rights to play the whole thing. But obviously this is kind of the freeze frame of it. LeBron James, Stephen A. Smith This was the confrontation. This was a game in March against the New York Knicks. Stephen A was there to support his Knicks in Los Angeles. And because of what Stephen A said about Bronny, LeBron James' son, Bronny James, talking about, hey, LeBron James as a father, stop this, stop this. Like we remember that whole dynamic and how it worked. And LeBron, before the fourth quarter, you see it right there. We're showing it on Carving It Up Live right now, confronted Stephen A. Smith and basically said, keep my family's name out your mouth, with some choice language in there, obviously. Listen, let's say Stephen A is correct that LeBron is talking about Stephen A behind the scenes to his people, whatever. Since the Pat McAfee interview, Bronny said nothing about you, bro. He said a word. And when later, we didn't show this clip in the interview, but he talks about how, J.J. Redick in that game against the Philadelphia 76ers that prompted Stephen A. Smith to talk about LeBron and basically questioning his decision-making as a father and all of it. Stephen A. Smith said in this podcast clip, we're not going to show it now, but on Carmelo Anthony's podcast, when J.J. Redick puts Bronny James in a game, first quarter against Philadelphia, against an all-star caliber player, Tyrese Maxey, who's out there licking his chops going against the second-round pick, a rookie, we can't criticize Bronny James the next day. In other words, like JJ is putting the media in a hard spot where we don't want to, but we have to criticize Bronny. There's nothing wrong with that. Bronny got cooked in that limited action. Of course, he's a second-round pick. I thought it was about LeBron, Stephen A. You mentioned J.J. Redick. J.J. Redick put LeBron in. So then why did you say on First Take back in January, LeBron James as a father, stop this? You're talking about the size of your mouth. And what purpose does it serve? I don't think this is going to be LeBron's last year. I think next year it's probably likely that that's it. Year 24 for LeBron James in 2027. We'll see. What benefit does it serve you continuously talking about this man over and over and over and going on? Seemingly, this is the second podcast clip I've seen this week of him talking about his spat with LeBron James. The funny part about this, you're talking real tough. You're talking about, I'd have done this, a lot of revisionist history. Bro, we saw what you did in the moment, man. You froze. By the way, can't say I blame you. I'd probably freeze if LeBron James confronted me in that tone as well. I get it. Don't rewrite history and how you reacted to that entire situation. Don't make it seem as if, oh man, Bron don't want to hear none of this. Obviously, Stephen A's not in play. He could fight LeBron. And he's clarified that. He's like, obviously, I could not fight LeBron James. But when you're on this show, on this podcast with Carmelo Anthony, who, again, I am really surprised did not interject in any way because supposedly LeBron is good friends with Carmelo, but whatever. That's separate. When you're out here, basically, now you're going into conspiracy talk. Now you're, man, there's cameras everywhere. It's on TNT. He's essentially implying, because he said point blank, I was set up in this spot to look bad by LeBron's people. This man is essentially saying, Bron had this big conspiracy. I'm going to have one guy sit in a certain spot in the arena behind where Stephen A. Smith is sitting. See, it makes no sense because Stephen A. said, I arrived in the first quarter. How'd Bron know you were going to be there? Maybe he did. I don't know. But how would Bron have known exactly where you were sitting? So you mean to tell me that this person with the phone that recorded this entire, but not, it wasn't really back and forth. It was one side. It was LeBron told Stephen A, keep my name out your mouth. My family's name out your mouth. Went about his way. Ended up winning the game against the Knicks. You mean to tell me this one person was set in that spot at the formerly called Staples Center, Crypto.com Arena, at a certain angle to make you look bad? That's ridiculous. Now you're getting into conspiracy talk. And if anybody knows anything about this show, you know that I despise conspiracies. That's not to say we should trust everything that we see, but don't want to act as if you know when you don't. That's my big thing with my hatred of conspiracy theories. It's getting kind of sad. And again, I said this many times. The road Stephen A. Smith has taken to get to prominence, nothing but love. Like that's the envy. $100 million, ESPN, face of a network. This man might run for president. We'll see how that plays itself out. This is tired, man. You're doing it for clicks. And he said in this clip, well, I mean, I was if I'm asked about LeBron James, what am I going to do? Not say something that'd be hypocritical as a member of the media. Bro, just tell the people in advance. You don't have to say the podcast, no comment, because then people accuse Stephen A. being a coward, and that's not necessarily fair. Just tell Mello's people, tell basically every podcast that you've been on in the last 7 months, hey, talk about anything. People do this all the time. Publicists do this all the time. Hey, this subject's off limit. We're not talking about this. Okay. Move on. You're Stephen A. Smith. You got plenty of things to talk about. Sports, politics. And you just keep honest to God, I think most people, prior to the first interview he did the other day, and then this one today, I forgot about that not altercation, but that confrontation completely. Forgot about it. Didn't know it existed. And you're still doing this for clicks. Very, very, very similarly to how you did with the Kyrie Irving situation. And by the way, I'm not going to be revisionist history myself. Go back and look. I was not a fan of how Kyrie handled that entire situation with the vaccine in Brooklyn, all of it. But Stephen A. went out of his way to attack him in ways that went well beyond basketball. And now he's kind of apologizing. Man, I was wrong about it. That's fine. But this shows a little bit of a continuous pattern here. And you're not only talking about it both sides of your mouth, but you're utilizing revisionist history. You're utilizing conspiracies. Let it go. Let's say you're right, and LeBron James has tried to work behind the scenes and get you off the air and ruin your career. You're Stephen A. Smith, man. Ain't nobody can ruin your career at this point. $100 million contract to ESPN. You're with ESPN and Sirius XM. You got your own podcast. You got News Nation. You're a made man. You are set for life. He can't ruin you now. It'd be one thing if LeBron was continuously going after Stephen A. publicly. That's different. Then it's like, hey, Stephen A's got a right to respond. If it's private, keep it that way. Rise above it. Be the bigger man if indeed LeBron is shrinking to the level that you say that he is shrinking. Normally I don't talk about controversies involving members of the sports media because I find it to be a little bit clickbaity. I find it to be a little bit just, I can't actually talk about sports, so I'm just going to attack somebody for the heck of it. But when this is the guy, the most well-known sports broadcaster in America, it's a different story. I mean, like last week, I thought long and hard about talking about what Skip Bayless said about Travis Hunter last week, which I thought as a Christian and just on a common sense standpoint, I thought was uncalled for. For those who didn't catch it, Skip, whose career's been dead for years, but Skip said that, Travis Hunter getting baptized 3 hours before the game shows that he's not as committed to football as he would like. As I guess Skip Bayless says that Travis Hunter, who's a Heisman Trophy winner and plays both sides of the ball, is in incredible shape, should be committed to football. So a man can't be committed to his faith. Again, I'm a Christian along with Travis Hunter. But regardless of faith, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, regardless. So a person can't be committed to their faith and their profession simultaneously. Again, the baptism happened 3 hours before the game, dude. I know I've just addressed Skip Bayless on the show, and I regret doing it because he's virtually irrelevant at this point. Stephen A., different story. Like, why are we still talking about this, bruh? It's been 7 months. No one even thought about this in the last 5 months until you brought it up again. You're doing it for clicks. That's fine. It's your prerogative, but you're doing it for clicks. And there's some truth to this. Patrick Brown in the comments. Let's not forget Screamin' A. Smith takes great liberty of demeaning black women as well. He's noting he's nothing more than a sellout as far as I'm concerned. And I can't speak to that because I'm not black, but I do understand why folks in that community feel a certain type of way about stuff that he has said. He's attacked numerous black women on his show for things that it would appear, has not attacked his white counterparts for similar things. And Patrick, LeBron is living rent-free in Smith's mind. As Mike Tomlin once said, I can listen, I'm not a Mike Tomlin fan, but I can definitely laugh at this. As Mike Tomlin once said, we do not care. I'm going to have to get that soundbite on the show. There you go. Patrick, he tells in a different passive-aggressive tones, doesn't bring the same energy as it pertains to other sides. Crickets. I just... What's the upside of this? Again, you get the... I cover politics from time to time on this show. You cover it pretty much full-time. God bless you. Got no problem with that. I think I've said this since 2020. The whole stick to sports thing is utter nonsense. It's ridiculous. Athletes have never stuck to sports for decades. It's a ridiculous narrative. And unwritten rules that do not exist. You've got plenty to discuss, man. Politics and sports, especially we're in October right now, you got plenty of headlines. You're still talking about a confrontation with LeBron James that lasted, 30 seconds? And we read LeBron's lips. He didn't say anything out of bounds. And we saw how you reacted. Very different than how you're portraying it. I will leave it at that. And when we come back on the show, there's still, Lions-Bucks is going on right now. Lions are up 7-0. There you go. 3 minutes in, the Lions are up 7-0. Goff just hit Amon-Ra St. Brown for a 27-yard touchdown. So Detroit's up early. For those that want to stick around with us, feel free to do so. We'll be back after the break to talk about the Chiefs, talk about the Niners, and recap the rest of Week 7 around what was a great weekend in the National Football League. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere. We still got a lot to discuss. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. I just got a comment on TikTok, which if you don't follow me on TikTok, right down there, Carving It Up Podcast, all my social media platforms for those that are watching the show right now, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube channels, both The Grid and Carving It Up. Subscribe to all of them, follow all of them, notification bells, putting out multiple forms of content each and every day, so check all of it out. I just got a great comment. Matter of fact, I think I'll show it to you guys because it's kind of hilarious. So this is from my TikTok video. I did it yesterday reacting to the Dolphins, and we'll talk about them later in the show. This person just put this, if you can see it, it says Miami Elfins because they have no O or they have no D or O. So, which is very true. The Dolphins can't score and they get scored on a lot. So we'll talk about the Dolphins later. I did want to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs. Listen, there's some teams that are showing themselves to be great right now. The Indianapolis Colts, we're going to talk about again, I keep teasing it, this crazy Colt stat. Just wait till I show it to you. It's going to blow your mind. Colts are rolling. Philadelphia, huge win. They feel good about themselves right now. Broncos are winning ugly. You know, Detroit, Tampa, both teams are playing well. They're playing right now. Right now, as we see here today in week 7, the Chiefs are the best team in football by a mile. Like, it's not close. And it's in large part because, contrary to seemingly popular belief in large parts of the last 3 years, they clearly and obviously had the best quarterback in football. And we could show you what he did against the Raiders yesterday, Patrick Mahomes. 3 touchdowns, no picks, 74.5% completion, 286 passing, a $126 passer rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 89, and Patrick Mahomes was sitting on the bench with a baseball cap toward the end of the third quarter. It was the Chiefs won this game 31-0. It was not as close as the score would indicate. Like, this felt like kind of it was the 2 oldest coaches in the league, Pete Carroll for the Raiders, Andy Reid for the Chiefs. This felt like Andy doesn't want to embarrass Pete. Like, there's mutual respect there. Andy Reid's certainly a Hall of Famer. Pete might be. Like, these are old, legendary, or I should say old, that's disrespectful. Older, legendary coaches. Andy doesn't want to embarrass Pete. Like, and I respect Andy for that. But this team's absolutely rolling. So they get Rashee Rice back yesterday, who obviously missed all but the first 4 games of last year because of an ACL, missed the first 6 games this year because of a suspension for the driving incident that we've talked about in the show. You know, inexcusable error on the part of Rashee Rice, and hopefully he grows as a person because of it. But Rashee Rice back in the lineup. Xavier Worthy, who's been back since week 4, and since Xavier Worthy came back in the lineup, the Chiefs have yet to score under 30. Hollywood Brown's a good receiver, and Juju Smith is there. And oh, by the way, Travis Kelce, who this year, to his credit, Travis Kelce would appear has, and he's even talked about this on his podcast with his brother Jason, that he's putting more attention and effort into his body, into football stuff this offseason as opposed to last offseason. Listen, when you're dating the most famous one in the world, you're working on choreographed skits and dances at the Aero Store. It's a lot. I get it. It takes up a lot of your time. I don't knock Travis for it. He was a 2-time defending champion at the time. But this year, he didn't like how he played last year, didn't like what he put in the field. He's getting older, but clearly is in better shape this year. Feels like he's got a little bit more burst this year. And now with this offense, which they ran for over 100 yards yesterday, which I feels like some of that is just the Raiders are awful. But if this team can get a running game, O-line's fixed. They're good. Their O-line has been an issue, especially last year. They were kind of running out of multiple different combinations. They had to put Joe Tooney at left tackle, and it was a disaster, as we saw obviously in the Super Bowl against Philadelphia. And even throughout the regular season, Mahomes was under duress a lot. Now Mahomes got all day to throw. Now Rashee Rice is there, and he had 2 touchdowns yesterday. And now Xavier Worthy's your deep threat. And now you got Hollywood Brown and Juju Smith-Schuster, and Tyquan Thornton, by the way, can catch a long ball, which he did yesterday. And you've got one of the greatest tight ends of all time and the greatest postseason pass catcher ever in Travis Kelce, catching passes, and you're pretty much unstoppable. There's no 2 ways about it. Now this defense is rolling. Chris Jones and Karlaftis and the defensive backfield with the likes of Trent McDuffie. This team, I don't think they're going to lose more than 1 game the rest of the year. I really don't. And that game might come against Buffalo, who always beats Kansas City in the regular season. That game is in Buffalo, so wouldn't be shocked if the Bills beat them again, 5th year in a row in the regular season before the Chiefs break their heart in the playoffs again. It could be against Denver. Right? I don't think they played Denver this year. They could give them problems. My guess is they don't get swept by the Chargers. They're going to sweep the Raiders. It's a first-place schedule. They're playing tough teams. Indianapolis could get them, although that game is an Arrowhead, so I have my doubts. I predicted Kansas City to go 13-4 in the regular season, and I feel about as good about that as ever. They're not losing more than 1 game the rest of the way. Patrick Mahomes is playing MVP football. The deep ball finally in Kansas City is back because their receiving core is healthy. Deep ball didn't work in 2023 because receivers couldn't catch a cold. Remember Marquez Valdez-Scantling and oh my gosh, what's the guy's name? Who Kadarius Toney, those drop passes. Then last year, drops weren't a problem. Health was a problem. They had to trade for DeAndre Hopkins mid-year. Hollywood Brown missed most of the season. Xavier Worthy, it took him a while to kind of come into his own. Rashee Rice blew his ACL in the first month of the year. Kelce wasn't in the best shape. Didn't work. Now, a team that obviously we know is great at winning close games has a better O-line, has one of the best, all of a sudden, one of the best wide receivers and receiving cores in football, certainly one of the deepest ones. If they make a move at the deadline to improve their running game, it's over. Like it is a foregone conclusion. Knock on wood, 15's healthy. They're winning the AFC, which, they've done 5 of the last 6 years and 3 years in a row. I mean, it's a foregone conclusion if Mahomes is healthy that they're in the AFC title game because, they always are. But listen, people talk about, well, I mean, it's today, and the Chiefs wouldn't be in the playoffs. Well, good thing the season doesn't end in October, because if you look at the odds, Vegas knows that, because they've got Kansas City as the favorites to win the conference, win the Super Bowl. Mahomes is the favorite to win MVP, and he's also the favorite to win Super Bowl MVP. So as I said last week, those that had your Kermit memes and your, hey, they're dead, they're 0-2, it's over, the Chiefs dynasty, at least for 2025, is a wrap. That was obviously, and I said it on the show at the time, an idiotic opinion to have. You know, again, shout out to Nick Wright, who's like a diehard Chiefs fan. He talks about unallowable opinions. Like there's certain, and I would almost interpret that as there's certain things, if you want to maintain credibility, you can't say and hope to maintain it. For example, like I'm a big fan of presidential history. If somebody said that, who's a good example? Okay. If somebody said, you know what? Martin Van Buren's the greatest president in American history. Okay, get this person out of the room. Let's have serious conversations. It's Lincoln, who is the GOAT, by the way. Lincoln is the GOAT. Or it's Washington, or it's either the Roosevelt or Eisenhower. Maybe someone might slide Jefferson in there. It's not Martin Van Buren. Like it's that's a ridiculous take to have if you want to maintain integrity. It was a ridiculous opinion. Absurd, dumb, stupid. If you actually thought that the Chiefs, whose whole offense was beat up the first 2 weeks of the season, that once those guys came back, they were going to be rolling. And by the way, forget the fact that the receiving core is loaded. Forget the fact that they fixed the offensive line in the offseason. Forget that Andy Reid's the best coach in football, Mahomes is the best quarterback in football, and Spags is arguably the best defensive coordinator in football. They're playing with something that they ain't played with in a while, particularly their quarterback, Mahomes. People thought we were cooked before the year. People thought, Denver's winning the division, or the Chargers win the division, or it's Buffalo's year, even though they never beat us, or it's Baltimore with their underachieving playoff quarterback, Lamar Jackson. Great in the regular season, not so much in the postseason. They've got us. Oh, really? Haven't we made 5 of the last 6 Super Bowls? That's us, right? Listen, we got trounced by Philadelphia, and you won't find a Chief that will make it a single excuse for that. Hey, they got trounced. But I felt like people used that as an excuse to say, yeah, they're cooked. It's over. You had folks at credible news organizations, sports news organizations, writing columns, saying on their talk shows or on their radio shows or their podcast that like this was over. Like, okay, the Chiefs dynasty is falling apart. Like it is, they didn't invest in the wide receiver core. They didn't do this. They didn't do that. So you don't believe in Brett Veach, the GM? You don't believe in Andy Reid, the coach, or Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback? And the roster they've already got? Please. Longest 15's healthy. I said it 2 years ago when the Chiefs won the Super Bowl against San Francisco. When that was the year to get Kansas City. The drops, they were 11-6. They had to win 2 playoff games on the road. They were playing a much better Niners team in the Super Bowl. I will bet against Patrick Mahomes until I won't bet against Patrick Mahomes until he gives me a reason to. Sorry, won't do it. I refuse. So yeah, hope you had your fun early in the season because they are all the way back. By the way, and this feels mean. Shout out to my man Chris Mahi, who runs the Edge, who runs the radio station that broadcasts my radio show, which you can check out, the Bryson Carver Show, anywhere. I should say anywhere you get your podcast. It's on the TuneIn app. I put the link to it every show. Mondays from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern, and then Fridays from noon to 2 Eastern. Chris is a good friend of mine, runs the radio station. This feels mean. He's a diehard Raiders fan. Show the graphic. Patrick Mahomes is like literally the Vegas Raiders father. You are the father of the Raiders, is Patrick Mahomes. 38 touchdowns, 5 picks, 66% completion percentage, 295 pass yards per game, which is crazy. 107.7 rating and a 13-2 record is Patrick Mahomes against the Las Vegas Raiders. He owns the guys. There's no other way to put it. He owns them. So there you go. Let's talk about San Francisco. The Niners are... It's a miracle that this team is 5-2. And not because, they've just eked out these close wins. Their games have been close. I've talked enough about the masterclass that Kyle Shanahan has put into effect coaching this football team with injuries too. I mean, it's unbelievable. Ayuk hasn't played a snap. Pearsall's missed multiple weeks. Juwan Jennings has been in and out of the lineup. Trent Williams hasn't been fully healthy all year. Brock Purdy's played only 2 games and didn't play well in either of them. On defense, Nick Bosa's gone for the year. Potential future first ballot Hall of Famer. Fred Warner's gone for the year. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. Mac Jones is the quarterback. And they're 5-2. Big reason that they are 5-2 is because of one. We talk about Mahomes reminding everybody, hey, guys, I'm still that dude. Christian McCaffrey's doing the same thing. Can we show what Christian McCaffrey did last night against the Atlanta Falcons? 31 touches, 201 total yards, more than half of the Niners' offense, 2 touchdowns, 6.5 yards per play, and Christian McCaffrey leads the NFL with 185 touches and 981 scrimmage yards. He is playing out of his mind. And when you consider that he's doing this, when defenses around the NFL, and they're playing the Atlanta Falcons, Raheem Morris is a defensive coach, and the Falcons this year, even last night, are a good defensive team. When every defensive coordinator that you play, no, that's the only guy that can beat us. Number 23, that's it. Especially last night with no Pearsall. They'd have Kittle back. I forgot to mention Kittle's injuries. Kittle, 2 targets, no catches. He was a no-show. Again, he's working his way back in the lineup. But that's the only guy who can kill us. And he's doing it every week. He's on pace for 2,000 scrimmage yards this season. Like, I think if he pulls that off another 2,000-yard season, which he had in 2019, I think he might have had, I'm pretty sure he had that in 2023. If he does that for a second or third time, he's a Hall of Famer. No questions asked. I know the injuries, I get it, but this guy's a home run hitter. But for this Niners team to pull this off, again, with Mac Jones at quarterback, a good offensive line, but Trent Williams is getting up. He played well last night, but getting up there in age and has been beat up this year. Your top 3 receivers, in case of one, Ayuk hasn't played yet. And in the case of 2 of them, Jennings and Pearsall been in and out of the lineup. Kittle's been out. Fred Warner's gone for the year. He's the quarterback of your defense. Nick Bosa is one of the premier pass rushers in the game. He's gone for the year. And by the way, let's not take credit away from Robert Saleh. Listen, I don't know if Robert Saleh is a bad head coach or not after the way the Jets are playing. I know he's a great defensive coordinator. We know that. He did a great job in San Francisco before the Jets job. By the way, the Jets weren't a good team. Jets defense was good when Saleh was there. Been pretty bad since then. What he's doing with a group of kids, bunch of rookies all over the field. I mean, they kept talking about the guy who's replacing Fred Warner last night. Kid played his butt off. This is schemes. This is being able to put your players in the best position to be successful. That is the operative word when it comes to coaching. Kyle Shanahan, I've said this since week 5 after they got that win against the Rams, against a great Rams team completely undermanned. Shanahan, to me, with respect to Shane Steichen and Mike Vrabel, Shanahan with what he's doing to me is clearly the coach of the year. I think it's a pretty good case thus far. Robert Saleh is the defensive coordinator of the year, certainly, but assistant coach of the year. Unbelievable stuff what these guys are pulling off with the San Francisco 49ers this year. It is coaching masterclass in every sense of the word. All right. We'll go and take a break. Last break of the show. When we come back, recap of the rest of Week 7 action around the NFL. Great NFL weekend. Game 7, again, Mariners and Blue Jays coming up in about 30 minutes or so. The Lions and Bucks are playing right now, so very excited to see how that game plays out. I've already predicted the Lions to win this game 34-31. I'll predict Texans and Seahawks, which that game kicks off at about 10 o'clock Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific. Come back in just 1 minute to recap the rest of Week 7 action around the National Football League. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. So a recap of the rest of Week 7 action around the National Football League. Before we do that, Adam Schefter, unbelievable. I just talked about the Niners a second ago. This team is literally falling apart, and they're 5-2. Schefter just reported 49ers have lost another defensive end to injury. Bryce Huff injured his hamstring near the end of Sunday night's win against Atlanta, and Kyle Shanahan told reporters, hopefully it won't be longer than 2 weeks. I've never seen anything like this in my life. And the fact that this team is leading a brutal NFC West, by the way. Remarkable stuff. Okay, recap of week 7 around the NFL. The Rams. Ooh, I missed this pick. I thought the Jacksonville, they were in London, and here we go, and the Rams were without Puka. That game is over before it started. Rams win 35-7 over the Jacksonville Jaguars. Matthew Stafford with not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 touchdown passes in the game, 3 of which going to Devontae Adams. We talk about future first ballot Hall of Famers. I think it's fair to say Devontae is in that class. That's the most touchdown passes for any player, playing in a game overseas. So kudos to Matthew Stafford. Big-time game on his part. As for Jacksonville, the one bright spot was Travis Hunter. He did have his first touchdown. He had over 100 yards receiving. I feel like Travis Hunter's actually been better on offense than he's been on defense, which folks thought it was going to be the other way around. He's been a legit weapon. He's certainly been more reliable for Trevor Lawrence than Brian Thomas has been. I don't know what's going on. I've said it since week 2. I don't know what's going on between Trevor Lawrence and Brian Thomas. Feels like they're never on the same page. It's wild stuff. Jacksonville, who they have next week? They got a bye, and they got the Raiders in Vegas, so they'll be fine. Jacksonville will be fine. But the Rams win this game. They get to 5-2 and keep pace with the 49ers in the division. I already talked Chiefs Raiders, but just last thing, I forgot to bring this up, so let's just discuss it quickly now. You know how the Kansas City Chiefs are like totally back? Now they're just screwing with teams. Now they're messing with people. For those that didn't see it, I'm sure you have, but for those that didn't, first half, the Kansas City Chiefs have a 4th and 1 at their own, what were they, at the 45-ish yard line? They were in their own territory. It was a 4th and 1. They went for it. You should go for it, and they did. It didn't look like they're going to initially. Looks like they're just going to try and get the Raiders to jump, which I don't know why teams do that. That never works. 4th and 1, like if you're in your own territory or in a 4th down and 1, they're not jumping. Unless it's the tush push in Philadelphia, they're not jumping. Well, Mahomes is trying to get him to jump, and then he's like, this effing play never effing works. We'll show you the audio and then show you what Mahomes said about it after the game. But this is what happens with Patrick Mahomes, the Kansas City Chiefs, going for it on 4th and 1 and screwing with the Raiders and everybody.
Tried to draw him offside. Sorry. Mahomes says, Coach, it doesn't
Oh, there they go.
work. He was faking it.
There they go.
Got you.
I think it comes from all my State Farm commercials. No, I'm joking. The Nags actually came up with the idea. We had talked about doing the hard count, trying to draw the teams off sides. And I can't remember who I watched do it a couple years ago, and they had said that, and so I was like, I'm going to use that as part of my acting to try to get the defense just to relax a little bit. But at the end of the day, we still got to go get it. And I thought the offensive line did a great job of driving off the ball, and then Kareem in those situations is money.
Patrick is a decent actor in those State Farm commercials with Jake. I will say real quick, the Trey Smith commercials, love that. Go Trey Smith, volunteer for life. Steal the draft back in 2021, I guess is when they got him, because he had some medical issues at Tennessee. But God, what a steal! Now, by the way, highest paid guard in the NFL. So shout out to Trey Smith. But yeah, that was hilarious. Now, it's not like now they're messing with teams. Remember, it's funny, it was against the Raiders too, Week 18, 2022, when they did the ring around the Rosie play, which I think got called back due to penalty actually. But remember, they were doing the ring around the Rosie before they went to the line of scrimmage. Like, this team's screwing with people, and that's when they didn't do that the last 2 years. That's when oh blank, they're about to reel off a lot of W's. What else did we have yesterday? Okay, Browns and the Dolphins. There's not much to say about the Browns. Dylan Gabriel was Quinshon Judkins was really good. He had 3 touchdowns rushing on the ground. The story is obviously the Dolphins, and it's Tua Tagovailoa. I've talked about this plenty. I did it on Carving Up the Context last Wednesday. I did a reaction video that's people are, reacting to on TikTok and all of it. Man, you can't be out here if you're Tua calling out your entire organization, which, as I said on Carving Up the context was Tua's been doing this. He ripped his former coach, Brian Flores. He ripped his center for a less than ideal snap against the Arizona Cardinals. He ripped Tyreek Hill for running too far against the Patriots in week 2. And then he rips his teammates for not showing up to players-only meetings. And then you turn around. Listen, the Browns have a great defense. A great defense. They ain't this good. Maybe they are. You're just that bad. I don't know. 2 against Cleveland Browns. 12 of 23, 100 yards, no touchdowns, 3 picks. He had a passer rating of 24. For context, I think you get a passer rating of 39 if you spike the ball. So Tua was 15 points below that. And a QBR 0 to 100 of 3. Shout out to my guy, Barry Grant Jr. of the All Even podcast, who's been covering this as well as far as to his lack of leadership. He made a really good point that I didn't bring up on Wednesday. Maybe the reason guys aren't showing up to these players-only meetings is you might because you're an awful leader and they don't mess with you. And by the way, Mike McDaniel, who I said yesterday I would be shocked if he wasn't fired. He ain't been fired, at least not yet. He alluded to after the game, we may have to make a change at quarterback. You know it's bad when they're benching you, and you're one of the 10 highest paid quarterbacks in NFL history, by the way. You know it's bad when they're probably about to bench you for Quinn Ewers, who was a 7th-round pick. And I don't, most of us didn't like in college at Texas. That's not great. So if Dolphins season is completely gone awry, team whose season in the AFC has not gone awry, but is going beautifully, is the New England Patriots. 31-13. Vrabel did get his revenge against his former team, the Tennessee Titans. And the story, as it's been for a month now, literally a month straight, Drake freaking May show his numbers against the Tennessee Titans yesterday. 2 touchdowns, no picks, 91% completion, 222 passing yards, 62 rush yards. He's never gotten credit for how good of a runner with the football he is. 135 passer rating, 96 0 to 100 QBR. And you see that thing on the bottom. That is the most remarkable part about this stat line. Drake May's the first Patriots quarterback to throw 20-plus passes with a completion percentage of 90 or more percent. First Patriots quarterback to never do that. I happen to recall a certain individual used to play for the Patriots. His name escapes me as of right now, but I heard of him, and I heard he was pretty good. Tom Brady, that's who it was. I heard he was a decent quarterback. Not even Tom freaking Brady did this. Pretty good stuff on the part of Drake May, who's playing exceptional football. By the way, Joshua Dobbs got some action in this game too, which was cool to see. A great win for the Patriots. Boring game, just an eyesore. Panthers over the Jets. Listen, the only reason I was watching this game is because it was one of my If I Were a Batman games. I had Carolina -1.5. Thank you, Carolina, for covering. Only real stories is quarterback injuries / quarterback benchings. For the injuries, Bryce Young got hurt in this game. It looks like he's not going to be available next week against Buffalo, so it'll be Andy Dalton against the Bills, which is a tough ask. Although Bills don't have a good defense, so crazier things have happened. That game is in Charlotte. But Andy Dalton came in cleanup duty. Rico Dowdle was solid. Panthers scored 13 points. A win's a win. You don't ever apologize for a win in the NFL. As for the Jets, they have yet to get a win. Justin Fields got benched at halftime and replaced by Tyrod Taylor. That's how you say his name. Tyrod Taylor, who threw 2 picks in the second half. And Aaron Glenn said after the game that he has not made a decision on who his starting quarterback is for next week. And the Jets next week play the Bengals, who got that big win over my Steelers and whose offense now has new life with Joe Flacco. Whew. God, the Jets are a disastrous organization. Bears beat the Saints 26-14, and it was all about the Bears running game. DeAndre Swift, 19 carries for 124 yards. Chicago had 40 carries for 222 yards on the ground. Listen, I'm not surprised the Bears won this game. For Caleb Williams, there's good news and there's bad news. Y'all know how high I was on Caleb coming out of USC. The good news is, like, he threw a pick yesterday early in the game. Caleb doesn't throw picks. Like, straight up. The man does not. He has not. Let's see. This is 6 games into the year. So, okay. He's played 23 games in his career. He's thrown 9 picks. The kid doesn't, for as much as a gunslinger, quote unquote, as he is, he doesn't turn the ball over to his credit. The bad news is, man, he struggles with accuracy. I mean, it's amazing. I've said this multiple times. The crazy highlight throws, he makes them on a routine basis. The simple, a lot of it is, he's got a little bit of a problem that Joe Milton, back at quarterback in Dallas, and he was the quarterback with my Vols in 2023, where they just throw the ball too freaking hard on some of these intermediate. Like, Caleb's putting too much muscle. Caleb's got a rocket arm. But I'm like, bro, I'm watching some of these to DJ Moore and doing that. Like, bro, dial it back a little, dude. So now accuracy, I believe, is something can be taught. Look no further than Josh Allen, 52% completion his rookie year. Now he's mid-60s, flirts with 70% completion depending on the Sunday. But listen, if you're a Bears fan, you don't apologize. You're 4-0 in your last 4 games. You're 4-2, right in the thick of the playoff picture. Bears defense has been solid. Dennis Allen got the game ball after the game. He was the former head coach of the Saints. Good win for Chicago. Okay, I've teased it enough. I'll bring it up now. So the Indianapolis Colts won yesterday, 38-24. Their offense has looked, yesterday, that's a Jesse Minter coach Chargers defense that with Derwin James that got Khalil Mack back from injury earlier than I think we all anticipated on the road in LA, although the Chargers don't have much of a home field, but regardless. And it was a hot knife through butter. It was Alabama against, nobody Tech. It was unbelievable. I saw this stat. I knew Colts' offense was dominant. They're 6-1. They've got the best record in football. I couldn't believe the stat when I saw it, and I'm about to show it to you guys live here on Carving It Up. Points per drive in the 21st century. So how many points you score per drive? This is where the Colts are at among teams, points per drive in the 21st century. Go and put up that graphic. That's hard to even wrap your arms around. For those that can't see it, for those that are listening via the podcast, this year's Colts averaged 3.46 points per drive in the 21st, which is the most in the 21st century. A distant second place, the 2007 Patriots with Tom Brady and Randy Moss. And in third place, the 2018 Kansas City Chiefs with Mahomes, Kelsey, and Tyreek Hill. Like that doesn't even, again, 07 Patriots and 18 Chiefs, that's over the course of a full season. So that's Indianapolis we're barely through halfway, or we're not even halfway through the year. I get it. It's small-ish sample size, but still. This offense is stacked. It's stacked. The O-line's excellent. Daniel Jones. Listen, Daniel Jones, it's not like he's just playing this game manager. He's got 15 touchdown passes. He's been great. He's a legitimate contender in the MVP race. Now, he's battling a little bit of the same, he's going against a little bit of the same obstacles that Sam Darnold did last year. Remember, Sam Darnold balled out with Minnesota, and Sam Darnold was a huge, reason the Vikings were successful. We're seeing that this year with how Minnesota's playing, how Seattle's playing, frankly. But his history hurt him. It just did. Fairly or unfairly, Darnold's previous career trajectory hurt him. Same case with Daniel Jones. That might bite him in the butt when it's all said and done. But, Jonathan Taylor's the best back in football right now. I think he's also in the MVP discussion. He has to be. The O-line's phenomenal. Tyler Warren, who I thought, with respect to Colson Loveland, I thought Tyler Warren was clearly the best tight end in the draft coming out of Penn State. Blocking, receiving. He's been awesome thus far this year. And you've got this kid, Alec Pierce, who's kind of their go-ball guy. You got Michael Pittman. Steichen's calling plays. You got Lou Anarumo calling the defense. They had a big pick on Justin Herbert. They had 2, but 1 was in the end zone. This team looks unbelievable. Like it is, I know a lot of times, I think someone once called it the confetti test, which is basically close your eyes and can you see this team winning a Super Bowl? Can you see this team holding the trophy, confetti falling in the stadium? Admittedly, it is a little difficult to think, wait a minute, Daniel Jones holding Lombardi trophy, beating whoever comes out of the NFC, Philadelphia, Tampa, Detroit, whoever. That is a little bit hard to envision, I must admit. But it simply would not be fair to this team if we called them anything but what they are, and that is a clear Super Bowl contender in the AFC. They are. That they absolutely are. You cannot have an offense this off to a historic start to the season. A defense that, again, coordinators matter, man. Cincinnati, I said at the time, what the heck were you doing firing Lou Anarumo? He wasn't the problem. Your personnel was the problem. I'm telling you, this team's legit. It's legit good. Yeah, Patrick. Yeah, good point. Herbert was those interception passing attempts. Sheesh. Yeah, he had 420 yards in the game. I think was it like 55 attempts or something. And the 2 picks, especially the one in the end zone, were brutal. The Chargers are just falling apart right now. 3 losses in 4 games. And Patrick, Colts have a great running game, and JT is an underrated running back. Daniel Jones looks as if he's having fun playing QB. And we didn't have the audio, unfortunately, but Daniel Jones had a great quote to Evan Washburn after the game. And Evan Washburn of CBS was basically saying, hey, gotta be honest, man, like, I don't think any of us expected this. And Daniel Jones not being a jerk, but just being the competitor that any great professional athlete is. He said that, that shows how much you guys know, basically. And it wasn't even in like a mean tone towards Evan. It was kind of like look at us. Patrick, anytime a castaway QB goes to a dump, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Kevin O'Connell, and now Shane Steichen, the QB Rehabilitation School revives their careers, and we're seeing positive growth. And kind of to that point that Patrick is making, what do all those coaches have in common? Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, who else did he mention? Kevin O'Connell, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, and Shane Steichen. Offensive coaches. And I've been very hesitant over the years to be on you're screwed if you don't hire an offensive coach to be your head coach. Boy, but over time, it looks like the data is just like, if you think about it, who have been the two most successful defensive coaches this season in the NFL? Mike Vrabel in New England and Mike McDonald with Seattle. Both have excellent offensive coordinators. Josh McDaniels, bad head coach. Look what Josh McDaniels did with Mac Jones in 2021. Josh McDaniels can call plays. And then in Seattle, Clint Kubiak. Very smart coordinator. Eventually, McDaniels, New England's in a good spot because McDaniels, because he's bombed twice as a head coach, is very similar to Spags in Kansas City, because Spags was an awful head coach. Great DC. You'll probably never lose him. Same case with Josh McDaniels. Bombed twice as a head coach. Great OC. You're probably never going to lose him. So you're really in the catbird seat if you're a Patriots fan in that regard. But you look at other defensive coaches. DeMeco Ryans, again, it's not even that these guys are bad coaches. It's not the problem. It's just there's a certain, as this league has gotten more offense-centric, gotten more about developing quarterbacks. I mean, look at Daniel Jones with this guy. Look at, who's a good example? I mean, Josh Allen's doing what he's doing with the defensive coach, and a lot of us have said, I'm not sure if Sean McDermott's the guy. It's a real thing in this league, man. Patrick Mahomes, I think, would have been great anywhere he goes because he's that kind of a generational talent. Sure helped going Andy Reid. It did. It was a different ballgame going to that guy. That's what I've gotten on Pittsburgh for. Like, we're going to win with defense. You need a great defense, 100%. Need to score some points as well. Now the problem in Pittsburgh, they are scoring points. They can't stop a nosebleed. Get Tom out of here. Last game. I hope Patrick, I love you, Patrick. Patrick's like an older brother to me. I love that guy. Good friend of mine. I hope you're still in the group chat. Don't you go anywhere. Last game, then we'll predict the Texans Seahawks game tonight. Packers beat the Cardinals, which was heartbreaking for me because I picked the Cardinals in an upset. And gosh, for a while, it looked like they were going to do it. Yeah, I was going to come in here, put on the shades, have a new addition to the reel that we had the last couple of days where I picked 4 straight upsets in a row. It's going to be 5. And Micah Parsons said, no, sir. Put up Micah Parsons. What he did yesterday against the Arizona Cardinals was the best player on the field. 3 sacks. That's a career high, by the way. 3 sacks. 4 tackles for losses, 5 tackles overall, 5 quarterback hits, 10 pressures. And you saw all throughout that game, the Packers back end was getting cooked by Jacoby Brissett. Trey McBride, Marvin Harrison made a few plays. Folks, Green Bay's 4-1-1 today. They'd be 3-3 if not for Micah Parsons. Legit. Micah Parsons has made the 2 biggest defensive plays of the Packers season thus far. The game against Dallas that ends in a tie, it's 37-all. Cowboys got the ball. They're going down the field. Dallas is going to score. Green Bay's going to get the ball back. It's not like the old overtime rules. If Dallas scores a touchdown, the game's not over. Green Bay gets the ball back. Dak's going to run it in for a touchdown. And at the last second, we've always talked about Micah Parsons' speed. That closing speed, it's like a lion running down his prey. They used to call Micah Parsons the linebacker. Well, lion ran down his prey in the case of Dak Prescott. Sacks Dak. Stops him from scoring. Packers end up having to settle for a field goal in overtime, bungle clock situation. Dallas probably wins that game if Micah doesn't make that play. Dallas certainly scores a touchdown if Micah doesn't make that play. And then this week, certainly the multiple sacks, but Green Bay scores. Gutsy 4th down call by LaFleur. Kudos to him for making it, for not kicking the field goal because they didn't give it back to the Cardinals, and all they need is a field goal, and you probably lose. Jordan Love making a big-time throw to Tucker Kraft. Jacoby Brissett's going right down the field. Again, carving up this Packers secondary. And they're on the edge of the red zone, 29 seconds. They've got a couple timeouts to burn. Oh my goodness, they're going to... Micah makes the play. 2 biggest plays of the Packers season. That's why you go get that guy. That's why you make him the highest paid defensive player in NFL history. I'm telling you, if that guy... Oh my God. If that guy was in Dallas, the Cowboys could win the Super Bowl with how Dak's playing, which makes me all the more mad at Jerry Jones for just wasting. Because the Cowboys are not going to win the Super Bowl this year. I don't know if you heard, but that's not going to happen. If they had that guy, premier pass rushers are hard to find in the NFL, so you don't... Premier pass rushers are like left tackles and quarterbacks. Once you get one, you move heaven and earth to keep them. Unbelievable stuff. Speaking of pass rushers, this just broke, and we had heard some news about this yesterday, but it's official. Schefter reported it, and then we'll predict Texans Seahawks and get out of here. Former Eagle standout Brandon Graham, the largest tenure player. Can I speak English today? The longest tenure player in franchise history is finalizing a deal to rejoin the franchise this week. Graham played 15 seasons in Philadelphia and now will return for his 16th season. This has to be in response to the Zadarius Smith retirement. For those who didn't see, Zadarius Smith, longtime pass rusher, he retired, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago. Now Brandon Graham, who retired, he's coming back. Good guy in the locker room. Obviously made the play on Tom Brady to help the Eagles win their first Super Bowl back in 2017. Hey, good veteran to have in the locker room. Can still play. Saw him do a podcast interview recently. Looks like he's in pretty good shape. So, good move from Philadelphia. That's Howie Roseman doing Howie Roseman things. He's always got the guys ready to go. All right, before we get out of here, it's been almost a 2-hour show, and I can't say I'm surprised because of the number of stuff that we had to talk about. Again, I've got Mariners over Toronto tonight. But speaking of Seattle, other Seattle teams, Seattle Seahawks at home against the Houston Texans, who are coming off of a bye. Seattle is a 3.5-point favorite at home. So, look, Houston's offense up until they play Baltimore, which just feels like it's everybody's get-right game, looked just awful offensively, which didn't surprise me because the O-line got worse in the offseason. The receiving core got worse in the offseason. The running game with the loss of Joe Mixon got worse. Houston was going to have to survive games on the back of their outstanding defense. Seattle themselves also have an outstanding defense. This kid, Nick Imamwuri, the rookie out of South Carolina, has been great. Is Devon Witherspoon playing? Because I know he was questionable coming into this game. It's still questionable, so nothing new on him. But this Seattle defense has been excellent. For Seattle's offense, Sam Darnold has played efficient football. He's looked every bit like the Sam Darnold we saw last year in Minnesota, and in large part because, similar to Minnesota, he had a true superstar number one receiver. He's got one in Seattle too. JSN, Jackson Smith and Jigba, who's been kick and fly. We knew this, but deep threats, all of it. Seattle's receiving core isn't great. Certainly it's not as good as Minnesota's was now or last year, but God, this kid's good. And he's going to have to be good tonight against Derek Stingley and against Henry To'oTo'o and all the guys that they have on this Houston Texas defense. It's a low-scoring affair. I've got the Seattle Seahawks winning this one at 23-17. Kind of a game that they just sort of go down, settle for points. Not a lot of fourth down calls in this game. These are two defensive coaches, so expected to be pretty conservative and pretty low scoring. But Seattle Seahawks win this game 23-17. They do cover the 3.5-point spread. Like I said, Seattle 23, Texans 17. I didn't buy Houston coming into the season. I've really liked what I've seen from Seattle. All right, that is all the time we have for today's show. I appreciate everybody stopping by. As always, catch Carving It Up tomorrow. We're going to have a special show to do a 6-year anniversary celebration of Carving It Up. First ever podcast, October 21st, 2019. Cannot believe it's been this long since I've been doing the show. 6 years have flown by. But we're going to talk sports. We're going to talk about the 2 games tonight. Lions-Bucks. Probably have a ton to discuss in that one. Game I just predicted, Texans and Seahawks. Probably talk some Game 7 in regards to the Blue Jays and the Mariners. Talk about the NBA, which tips off tomorrow night, baby. NBA is back. One of the many reasons why October is the best moment in sports, best month in sports. My MVP prediction, my finals prediction, all of it. Tune into all of it. Again, the time is not finalized yet. A lot of it's going to depend on some other shows in the grid, some new stuff to be announced, TBD. But don't want to step on anybody's toes. Want everybody to have their own primetime show. No stepping on the toes in terms of the audience. So we'll be back. I'll be able to announce the time as soon as possible on social media, likely on Instagram. So check, follow me on there. right there. Carving It Up Podcast, Carving It Up Pod on X, Carving It Up Podcast on TikTok, Carving It Up with Bryce and Carver on YouTube, and of course, subscribe to the Grid Network. That is GRYD, the Grid Podcast Network, and anywhere you get your favorite podcasts, you can check us out there. Great show. See you guys tomorrow to celebrate 6 years of Carving It Up. NFL, baseball, NBA. How could you not love it? As the Harbaugh brothers say, who's got it better than us? Nobody. See you guys tomorrow. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. The NBA's back. Love it. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.